McLean County Asphalt. They've been repairing driveways for more than 50 years. Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9.
1, go! Welcome to the Red Kingdom. Yeah. Kingdom. Welcome to the Red Kingdom. Yeah. To the place where we run it, place really haunted by number 58.
Technical issues. We had a very special guest. I'm so appreciative of his time. That was Jeremiah Fowler. He is a data security expert, and he was telling me about how foreign adversaries can definitely use unprotected voter data to disrupt Illinois elections. Here's how it would go. Instead of an ethical security researcher who found this data, which included people's social security numbers, death certificates, Illinois voter applications, all kinds of things, personal identifiable information. Instead of somebody ethical like Jeremiah Fowler finding this, the bad guys are looking for the same thing. And they're looking for that data. But the difference is he's going to let you know that he found it, and he's going to say, hey, take the correct steps to make sure I never find this again, or your foreign adversaries don't find this. And the foreign adversary is going to take it, manipulate it. They could request all kinds of absentee ballots in your name. Okay, so if you have somebody's social security number, foreign adversaries might take that sensitive voter information and disrupt American elections by requesting absentee ballots using voter social security numbers and personal identifiable information. Fowler said, quote, when voter data is stored online, you can create this vulnerability. It just happens, okay? Especially when you are outsourcing it, and you have to farm that data to a third-party company, whether that, in this case, he found it through Platinum Technologies. However, most election authorities always outsource their voting systems because they, quite frankly, it's too expensive to hire a bunch of cybersecurity experts and data storage guys to store that data for you. So you, of course, outsource it to Platinum Technologies or something like Platinum Technologies, and then you run the risk of having that data be vulnerable because you've lost control of that data. And in this case, the Illinois State Board of Elections confirmed with me that they have no authority over what local election authorities, who they contract with. There is no standard. When asked if there should be a standard, the Illinois State Board of Elections spokesman said that that's up to the legislature. They got to talk about what kind of standards that these third-party companies have to follow, whether that be regular penetration tests, right? Where they are constantly trying to penetrate their own system and do what Jeremiah Fowler did, where the company is doing that, and they provide penetration test results to the actual county clerk or the local election authority, whether that be regular visits with the cyber navigators, who are a resource for local election authorities, that the third-party company that you're using to store that data check in with the cyber navigator, because you're a middleman. Unfortunately, you've lost control of this data, which I'm not blaming the local election authorities for farming out our data to third-party companies. I get that you don't have the resources. And unfortunately, we live in this technology world, and you have to store data. And anytime you store data online, you run this risk. So we need to be this is all new. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying that, shame on these counties. It was 12 plus then some counties he was able to, they were password protected, so he wasn't able to get it like readily accessible online. They were password protected, but there were multiple counties on top of the 12 counties, not including McLean County. They don't use Platinum Technologies specifically, but there's a larger question when it comes to our safety. Okay, when it comes to the safety of our elections, because there is no standard, and that's not me saying that. That is the ultimate state election authority, the Illinois State Board of Elections. So The data was manually reviewed by Jeremiah Fowler, who was or is an American citizen. He lives in Europe now. And he said, look, the taxpayer funded voting system should protect Americans' personal identifiable information. And unfortunately, we have a patchwork of technology providers, and no two jurisdictions have the same data protections. As a voter, you're like, hey, I trust you. I trust you. And then you farm out this data to third party companies. That's where the disconnect is. And there needs to be checks and balances in place that these third party companies are abiding to when it comes to storing the data and making sure that data is protected. So Fowler, he said that there were good things about Platinum Technology Resources. So we're not just ripping on this third party company. It's not just this third party company. It's the system, the process that's the problem, and I asked him, hey, what would you say to a local election authority who doesn't have Platinum Technology Resources? He said, look, whoever you're using for voting systems, for registration systems, data storage systems, whoever you're using, you have to make sure that they're constantly trying to penetrate their own system, and they're providing you receipts that they're doing regular testing of their system to make sure a data breach like this doesn't happen. We lucked out. We lucked out. 4.6 million records are out there, and they have full, partial social security numbers, death certificates, marriage certificates, whatever personal identifiable information is out there. And we lucked out that this guy was an ethical security, data security researcher, and he wasn't Russia or Iran. And he said, who's to say that this hasn't already happened? So right now, there is a standard. The Illinois State Board of Elections, they do provide standards when it comes to registration systems and voting systems. Yes. Now, if you're contracting services out for a variety of other election things like storing data, voter information, then they don't have authority over that. So, Platinum Technologies, uh, very specifically, in this case, they were storing data, and it was breached. All right, I do want to talk about this story coming up in just a little bit. Vivek Ramaswamy was fact checked by CNN, but they fact checked him with a fake story. I want to get to that. But before I do want to read this text. Obviously, Jeremiah Fowler, he lived in Ukraine. I wanted to get his opinion and his perspective on what's going on in Ukraine. In Chicago the past weekend, Kat, we talked to a Ukrainian driver. He was very intelligent. He said Trump is going to be very good for America, but very bad for Ukraine. He'll bring America's economy back, and he's going to end the war in Ukraine. But Ukraine is not going to get their land back. That's a very honest perspective. Yeah. So, I in the debate, Trump did say that he wouldn't say that, yes, we want to see a Ukrainian victory, because what does that look like? Well, it means that they're not that Russia will get this land or keep this land, and they're not going to maintain their resources that they had. However, in my opinion, being that I have Ukrainian friends, people are here, avoiding war and avoiding um, the tragedy over there. I know I have some friends, actually, somebody in my youth group, she's from Ukraine. I feel for the Ukrainian people. I really do. And this would have never happened had Donald Trump remained president. Putin would have never been emboldened to do this. Okay. He was emboldened when he saw how weak the Biden administration was. And he said, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So, now that they've screwed it all up, the Biden administration, I don't know if there is getting land back for Ukraine in this moment. We have been in war for 2 years. I'm going to play a clip here in just a little bit. JD Vance going out on the record and saying and comparing the two wars. And you won't hear Kamala Harris do this. You'll only hear JD Vance do this. I don't even think you can really hear Donald Trump doing this. And then Donald Trump, I wouldn't say that he is a historian of any kind. It's not that he's not smart. He's a businessman. He's quippy. He's smart. But JD Vance, he comes across as somebody who is very intelligent, especially when it comes to foreign affairs. So he explains, and I'm going to sum up this clip here. He explains that what's going on over in Israel, they have a means, because we can't go on the offensive, right? We can't provide offensive weapons to Ukraine. Otherwise, that would be, us going to war with Russia, which I'm pretty sure we're already doing, but that's besides the point. 152 billion, that's a B, is earmarked for Ukraine. That's a lot of money, folks. $152 billion earmarked for Ukraine. And all of that is supposed to be for defensive weapons, okay? Now, European nations, they haven't kicked in any kind of money. And my issue with the European nations is that they are constantly doing this green weenie crap. They're pulling away from oil, they're pulling away from this, and they're doing the green weenie energy. And you are de facto making Russia a powerhouse when you do that. Why? Because Russia now has the monopoly over that game, over the energy game, and you've empowered and emboldened Russia even more by pulling away from, uh, you know, importing, exporting, and using oil. Okay, so you've you've made and pulling away from and using energy, oil rigs, anything like that. You are not, yeah, by doing that, and this green weenie crap only emboldens Russia, because the only thing that truly works right now is oil and energy. Okay. And that is the leader in the industry, or in the energy industry. That's why Trump says, drill, baby, drill, drill, baby, drill. Once America starts to drill, baby, drill, this is all going to go away, because once you drill and you provide your own oil, you don't have to rely on Russia, and Russia isn't making money hand over fist uh, by giving out all this oil, right? So the European nations, you really want to stop Putin? Stop pulling away from energy. Stop pulling away from oil. Okay, you're only emboldening Putin when you do this green weenie crap. And that's what it's almost like they want Russia to be powerful, and you want Putin to be powerful when you do that. So, number one, fix that. Number two, European nations, you have to start contributing to this war. I understand America is a leader, and have a responsibility to protect the world. And, I can deal with that burden. However, you're never going to get anywhere in the Ukrainian war. Whereas in Israel, they're providing the offensive. Okay, so they have the resources and the money to provide the offensive. So we don't have to worry about that war being won. Eventually, the money and the numbers kind of justify themselves, in the sense that we're providing defense so they can focus on the offense. That's essentially what's going on in Israel. Now, here's the thing: in the United States, we're providing the defense, and we're funneling all this money for the defense, but who's actually providing the offense? They can't. So this is just an endless war, because there's no other nation chipping in to help Ukraine. I think the war could be over, and we might actually see a Ukraine victory if the European nations stop going towards the green weenie crap, stop emboldening Russia by pulling away from real energy and making them a leader in that, uh, and then start contributing. If we really don't want Russia to be emboldened and powerful and authoritarian, because he's a resource hog. That's Putin. He's a resource hog. He's a resource. He's a resource. He wants more, and that's just tyrants, and that's just how evil works. He wants more. I think Zelenskyy is more focused on fame. He's a fame hog. That's why he's over here, and instead of advocating for Trump, who will actually scare the living hell out of Putin if he's in office, and actually end the war and end fatalities. That's the thing. You want to end the war. You want to stop the destruction. And you might not get your land back, but you have Joe Biden to thank for that. Him and his feckless, weak leadership. Okay. You have Joe Biden to thank for that. It would have never happened had Donald Trump remained president. Putin would have never been emboldened like that. Europe, they weren't going towards this green weenie crap. America wasn't going towards the green weenie crap. When you do that, you embolden Russia. So I want to get off this, but I do want to say that, yeah, I bring all this up because Zelenskyy was in the United States, and he butt his nose into American politics, and he, ripped on JD Vance. JD Vance, as I said, has explained what exactly is going on and how we will never be able to win that war unless things give. Okay, the nations need to contribute, and we need to pull away from green weenie energy, and we need to start drill baby drilling and get Russia out. I mean, once you drill baby drill, that's all Russia is. They're a gas station. Okay. And if you become your own gas station, you don't need Russia to provide you gas for your car, right? We don't need them. They can be completely wiped off and isolated if we just say, you know what, we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to provide our own energy to our citizens. We don't really need you, Russia at all. So democracy is on the ballot. Remember that this November, kids. The Democrats have made it clear who citizens they actually care about. That's the Ukrainian citizens. Remember the 60 Minutes clips are tax dollars. The 60 Minutes, they exposed this. Our tax dollars are actually going towards buying supplies for farmers. It's going more to, it's not at this point going towards defense weaponry, and it can't go towards offense weaponry really, because then you're in war with Russia. Okay, we're in war with Russia, and it's no longer Ukraine in war with Russia, and that you can't do that in war. But we're providing salaries for 57,000 first responders. We're subsidizing the country's small businesses. At this point, we're paying for Ukraine to continue life. And that's according to 60 Minutes, not Gap Peterson. That's definitely um, 60 Minutes. They've exposed that our tax dollars are buying supplies for farmers, paying the salaries of first responders, and subsidizing the country's small businesses. Joe Biden, you guys remember when he gave the Maui household $700 per household to rebuild. And at that time, he had sent $2,500 per citizen in Ukraine. Okay, so it's very clear who citizens they care about most. Vladimir Zelenskyy, he flew to Pennsylvania to examine the ammunition American taxpayers are buying for him. During the visit, he launched an attack on JD Vance using the Democrat Party talking point that JD Vance is extreme, before adding that Vance, who's running America, is bad for Ukraine. Okay, I understand it might be bad for Ukraine in this sense, but you know what was bad for Ukraine? Russia invading. Okay, Joe Biden getting into office caused Russia to invade because Putin saw what kind of leadership was actually, in the United States. Uh, and he's not even really um, he says, would JD Vance, who's running in America, would be bad for Ukraine, a country he isn't running in or even a citizen of, by the way. JD Vance is going to be bad for Ukraine. He's not even running in that country. He's not a citizen of that country. I don't know how you could say he's bad for Ukraine, especially considering he's going to be the vice president of the United States. Um, However, he has a good outlook on this. He understands that we will never, this is an endless war, endless war. The numbers don't check out. Uh, and, you have this foreign leader hanging out with a Democrat governor. Um, and, this just does not look good. It doesn't look good that they flew Zelenskyy out there on U.S. Air Force C-17 is the plane, provided to him by the Harris Biden administration. Now, he was supposed to be there for some sort of United Nations summit or something like that. And then he went over to Pennsylvania. This is a battleground state, and you are undermining political opponents. It doesn't look good. The Biden Harris administration is using military assets to fly in a foreign leader into a battleground state to undermine their political opponents. That is what happened, and it does not look good, and it doesn't help Ukraine in any kind of way. So because it just shows the American people that you're a fame hog. You want to get out there and you want to rip on our the political opponents of our sitting vice president, and it's not a good look. So Kamala Harris is running against JD Vance and Donald Trump. She's currently in the United States presidential election. So Zelenskyy is touring an ammunitions factory in Pennsylvania, attacking Donald Trump, JD Vance, two American outlets. This is a foreign leader essentially campaigning for Harris on American soil, and that does not look good. That said, please remember, democracy is on the ballot. Democracy is on the ballot this year. That's what really bothers me. They used their authority as a United States president and as a sitting vice president to fly Zelenskyy out here, and he stumped for them. He campaigned for them, and that's embarrassing.
Today's 92-second news brought to you by
Tax and Accounting Plus.
Focus on growing your business and servicing your customers while Tax and Accounting Plus handles your payroll and bookkeeping.
Abuse your current power to get yourself elected. I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9.
Bloomington Police Department is proudly announcing the graduation of Assistant Chief Chad Walmsley from the prestigious 291st session of the FBI Academy in Quantico. According to a BPD Facebook post, this significant achievement highlights not only Walmsley's dedication, but also the department's commitment to professional development and excellence in law enforcement. Ag tourism is booming, and Illinois farmers are in a position to benefit.
According to the Census of Agriculture, agritourism and recreation income grew 33% from 2017 to 2022. University of Illinois professor of food and agricultural law Brian Endres says Illinois is well positioned because the state has amazing farmland and huge metropolitan areas.
A lot of research done by the USDA's Economic Research Service has shown that the most successful agritourism operations need to have some proximity to large population centers.
Wayne Searles of Rendleman Orchards in Alto Pass says people visit from around the Midwest.
We actually work with a lot of other businesses as one of the destination points for people that want to come spend a whole week here.
I'm Jim Talamonte.
News on the air, on the web, on your app, and on Alexa. I'm Tom Davis. Here's the Bloomington.
Areas, it will 74. Clear skies tonight, low 54. Sunshine on Thursday with a high of 76. Breezy on Friday with showers late in the day and a high 75.
McLean County Asphalt and Materials has been helping businesses and homeowners improve their curb appeal since 1964. Whether you're in need of mulch, decorative stone, Unilock papers, or granite boulders, the team at McLean County Asphalt and Materials is here to help you. You don't need to have a big truck or know someone who does, because McLean County Asphalt and Materials will deliver the material right to your job site. Get started now with their materials calculator at McLeanCountyAsphalt.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you. Discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free. With zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. This.com/JOY.
Wondering about your next step? Ashley was in school and pregnant when she reached out to the Pregnancy Resource Center. Would she be judged? Would she be accepted? What she found at LAPRC was a team of people who were committed to providing excellent care, compassionate support, and honest information to those facing pregnancy decisions. If you or someone you know is in a situation like Ashley, or if you want to help support women and families in our community, you can find us at pregnancyresourcecenter.org.
Cities 92.9 Sports.
Three winners to talk about this morning. In Denver, the Cards pasted the Rockies 7-3 with Mason Wynn, the 4 RBI homering and doubling hero. In Philly, the Cubs laid off the bubbly, unlike their counterparts, the Phillies, and beat them 10-4. And the White Sox won to a chorus of boos at the rate. They wanted to see record breaker 121. Instead, they got win number 37, 3-2 with an 8th-inning rally. And we'll see you at every Bison game this year as the Bloomington Bison Hockey Club is named yours truly, Chris Murphy, PA announcer for the inaugural season. I'd like to publicly thank the team and Mark Levin for the fine reference.
This guy, Chris Murphy, complete lowlife.
I'm Chris Murphy, Cities 92.9 Sports.
October 6th, Sunday, it's the Get Out the Vote rally from 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Davis Lodge in Hudson. Enjoy great food, live music, and a beautiful lakeside setting. Special guests include Conservative Cat from Cities 92.9. There will also be an appearance by Scott Robbins, the co-host of Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. There's going to be games and a bounce house for the kids. Get your tickets now at McLeanCountyRepublicans.org. At Tax and Accounting Plus, they're rock stars, but instead of microphones and guitars, they use spreadsheets. Focus on growing your business and servicing your customers, while Tax and Accounting Plus handles your payroll and bookkeeping. Find the experts at taxaccountingplus.com.
Yeah, I'm the cat. What's new, cat? Whoa. I got cat class and I got cat style.
Woohoo! Hey, good morning. Morning. Now, I do want to play this clip. So this is why does the United States continue to fund the war in Israel, whereas the Ukrainian war is a lost cause. And it's unfortunate, right? I know plenty of people who have fled that war scene, who are, here in this country fleeing war. It's tragic. People are dying. Actual Ukrainians are dying. There's people's lives, but this is an endless war. And JD Vance explains it really well here. And you won't hear Kamala Harris ever talk about the differences between Israel and Hamas and that war and the Ukrainian-Russian war. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
About this in the book, The Startup Nation. And if you look at what Israel is doing just with the Iron Beam system, for example, this is a system that would allow America and our allies to actually achieve some parity with the people who are sending drones and rocket attacks and so forth. There is no way that we can long-term fight a missile defense battle against people if they're paying 1/10 or 1/100th for offensive weapons that we are paying for defensive weapons. And the Israelis are doing the most important work to actually give us missile defense parity. That's a very important national security objective of the United States of America. And that's something we're working with one of the most innovative economies in the world to accomplish. There's another reason, actually, motivated by my view that America can't do everything. And that reason is quite simple. We have to sort of ask ourselves, what do we want out of our Israeli allies? And more importantly, what do we want out of all of our allies writ large? Do we want clients who depend on us, who can't do anything without us? Or do we want real allies who can actually advance their interests on their own, with America as playing a leadership role, but our allies actually doing something too?
Okay. So, in like I said, the European nations, they're not kicking in for the defensive part of it either. So we are footing the bill, most of the bill, $152 billion earmarked for Ukraine, like I said. And, JD Vance perfectly sums it up there. They can't do anything offensively. Ukraine can't. They've made steps and strides because we're helping them defensively. They've gone after, I'm not saying that they're completely not winning this war, but or never would, but this is going to be a very long battle if your offensive is not there. Whereas in Israel, the offensive is there and it's an actual partnership. They're actual allies in the sense that they're not clients, right? They're actually, contributing to the war as well. So Zelenskyy making the trip out to Pennsylvania, campaigning for the Biden-Harris or for Kamala Harris, essentially. JD Vance speaking poorly about their political opponents. That doesn't feel like democracy to me. You're using your power and your current position as a sitting vice president to go after your political opponents by shipping in foreign leaders to talk badly about your political opponents. Okay, I do want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy. That's really important that I get to that story today as well. Vivek Ramaswamy, fact checked by CNN. The media is not in the business of being fair to all candidates, and that's not a matter of opinion. You can check. I mean, this has been done. They've calculated it, what the coverage looks like for Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. 90% favorable to Kamala Harris and 90% unfavorable to Donald Trump. Okay, that's not it's not an opinion. The media is biased. That's an objective fact. You can take headlines after headlines, negative headlines written about Trump, favorable headlines written about Kamala, and the two are nowhere near the same. Like the scales are very, very tipped towards one side. So it's not surprising that they blatantly lie and make up stories to promote their propaganda, the leftist propaganda, the government propaganda. However, they've become more unhinged this election. Vivek Ramaswamy called out CNN host Cassie Hunt for not fact checking Kamala Harris and other candidates fairly. So he called her out, and then she responded by fact checking him with a fake story. So I've already fact checked this story before, the story that she uses to try to fact check him. But I want to play this clip for you of Vivek Ramaswamy and Cassie Hunt on CNN. Here you go.
We need to speak about stone cold hard truths and have that debate, even when it's uncomfortable in the open. That's how I think we're going to save the country. It's a big part of why I wrote this book. And I also think that I'd like to see that standard applied a little more even-handedly across the board. In that same debate, you had Kamala Harris making the claim also repeatedly, many times since, that women are bleeding out in parking lots when there isn't a shred of evidence of a single woman bleeding out in a parking lot of a hospital.
Well, there was actually a woman who died in Georgia who, because there were two women, in fact, one in particular who couldn't receive the care that she needed.
There's no evidence of a woman bleeding out in a parking lot. My point is the kind of rhetoric that's used
have you
across
seen
the
evidence
board,
of Haitian
we should
migrants
apply it
eating
even-handedly.
pets? Like, if we're going to talk about evidence, have you seen evidence of Haitian migrants eating pets?
Having gone to Springfield, I didn't see that evidence. But what I will tell you is I'm bringing that up because you brought up the Haitian migrant point. There are residents in the community that have pointed to that. There isn't even that level of a shred of evidence to support a single woman in the United States bleeding out in a parking lot. Yet that's been a repeated claim made by Kamala Harris. So I think when we're getting into fact checking, I think we should apply the same standards 360 degrees. And I think we should not use Kamala Harris's quote there to sidestep a debate about abortion policy.
Love Vivek Ramaswamy. He fact checked her on CNN. So, of course, they're talking about Amber Thurman. I've fact checked this story several times. So, National Review reports it this way: the tragic death of Amber Nicole Thurman. Thurman obtained chemical abortion pills from North Carolina. Okay, so she lives in Georgia, had to travel 4 hours to go get the abortion pills because they're not readily available in her state. Georgia has a 6-week ban on abortion. Okay, the abortion pills not ready, or she wanted to go get a surgical abortion. I don't know if Georgia has abortion pills. I would imagine not, but I don't know. So she was in Georgia, went to North Carolina, or in Georgia, went to North Carolina. She scheduled a surgical abortion. She was like 7 weeks along or something like that, and she couldn't get a surgical abortion in Georgia because of the 6-week ban. She travels 4 hours to North Carolina. She had scheduled a surgical abortion. However, when she got there, she was late to her abortion, her scheduled abortion. So they said, instead of giving you a surgical abortion, we'll give you these chemical abortion pills. She experienced a complication and started to bleed out. She passed out when she returned home to Georgia, took the pills. She bled. And a lot of bleeding is expected, I guess, with these abortion pills. However, she had a complication, which, from what I hear, is not something that's too rare. with these abortion pills. This is very new type of drug. Misoprostol, mifepristone is the names of the drugs, but it's a chemical abortion. She took it in Georgia. She expelled fetal tissue, and she had not expelled all of it, obviously, and then she passed out. So she was checked into a hospital in Georgia to get a DNC. Now, this is expelling the uterus. It's not the removal of the uterus. This is expelling the content and removing the content within inside of the uterus. Okay, so it's a DNC. It's a procedure to remove the rest of the fetal remains. Now, there were delays in her treatment. Okay, there has been no evidence to suggest that the doctors delayed her treatment because of the pro-life laws on the books. There is no evidence to suggest that's why the Georgia doctors did that. And if there happens to be evidence of that, then that's malpractice, because there's Hippocratic oaths that doctors take. You always try to save the life of the mother or the child. Clearly, this was not a life anymore. She had already expelled some fetal tissue. They have an obligation as medical professionals to save the life of the mother in that situation. There is no question. There's provisions within pro-life laws in Georgia that, hey, if somebody comes in and the life of the mother is threatened, then you, as a medical professional, have to save her life. You can't just let her die for the sake of the fetal tissue, right? So there were delays in her treatment, and she tragically died. Nobody talks about how this woman, she was pregnant with twins, by the way. Nobody talks about how, she wanted the abortion because she started nursing school, and she, had her life on track, and she didn't want to disrupt her newfound, this is a quote from her best friend, her newfound security. Okay, she didn't want to disrupt that. That's why she wanted the surgical abortion. Nobody talks about that. She made the decision to have unprotected sex. That's how babies happen, right? And how you get pregnant. She made that decision. That was a poor decision, number one. Poor decision number two was waiting to receive a surgical abortion until 7 weeks, knowing that she lives in Georgia. Okay, you had unprotected sex. Maybe you didn't know you were pregnant or whatever. When you have unprotected sex like that and there's a risk of you becoming pregnant, then maybe you should be more proactive in making sure you're not pregnant, right? During that course of 7 weeks. She waited until the 7th week. Poor decision number two. Poor decision number three would be showing up late to her scheduled surgical abortion. Poor decision number four would be taking abortion pills that were prescribed to her, not doing the research about those abortion pills, not remaining in the state of North Carolina for her to receive continued care under that kind of drug. Okay. Because at that clinic where she received the chemical abortion pills, they offer, if you have those pills, continued follow ups. Okay. So that was poor decision. What decision are we on? 4? Okay. So she decided to go back home and take the abortion pills. Poor decision number 5. She did not, when she experienced the bleeding, when she was expelling the fetal tissue and the babies, when she was expelling them and having complications, she was experiencing a lot of bleeding, and she waited to go to the hospital. In fact, she didn't go to the hospital when she was experiencing this bleeding, probably because the clinic, and this is on the clinic, didn't inform her that there'd be a lot of bleeding, and didn't inform her that, or how much bleeding is too much bleeding. Okay, so I mean, what decision are we on now? 5, 6? I don't know at this point. And there's definitely responsibility and accountability on the North Carolina clinic's part. Why are they prescribing these pills if you run the risk of bleeding out? Number one. Number two, why are you allowing them to leave your offices without around the clock care while they're under this type of drug, right? It's essentially like giving somebody a morphine drip and saying, go drive a car, right? So, there's responsibility on the clinic as well. So she takes this. She refuses to go to the hospital. She might think that the bleeding is normal. Who knows what she was told by the clinic? However, it was a poor decision, if you're experiencing this bleeding, not to go to the hospital. If she thought Any sane person, if you think that you're bleeding out too much or you're experiencing pain or a complication at all, you should go to the hospital, right? And she waited until she passed out. Okay, she passed out from bleeding, and she experienced this complication from the chemical abortion. So then she gets to the hospital. So all those decisions, nobody wants to talk about those decisions. They just want to say, oh, the hospital didn't perform the DNC because of the pro-life law. Hold on a second. Let's back up a second here. Are we going to talk about what actually caused the death of Amber Thurman, or are we going to blame the pro-life law when that literally had nothing to do with it? Yeah, the fact that the left is trying to act like she was refused treatment and bled out in a parking lot is reprehensible. It's deranged. And what's really sad about this is that they take a tragedy and they'll exploit this tragedy, this tragic death, for political gain. But these people will let no tragedy go to waste. I feel bad for Amber Thurman. She was sold a bill of goods from the pro-abortionists, and unfortunately, this woman was never given maybe the education or the truth. And these people are willing to exploit this tragedy even at the expense of the truth. And that's the problem here. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back.
The news is brought to you by me, Ryan Skritzel of Skritzel Slabjacking. Here's some news. Most people wait until they trip and fall on sunken concrete before they call me. So call me before that happens, and I'll level with you on how to fix it.
Kevin Cooper, 32, of Havana, was arrested after he was found to be in communication with a 15-year-old he had planned to have sexual intercourse with and also provide the teen with marijuana. The Knox County Sheriff's Office was tipped off about Cooper's alleged plans and intercepted him at a hotel room. Illinois Secretary of State Alexei Giannoulias continues his push to restrict various food additives.
On Monday, Giannoulias joined various groups to speak about an upcoming FDA hearing about concerns over food additives.
Food manufacturers have told consumers to leave it up to the FDA to determine the safety of chemicals that flow into our food supply. That would be great if the FDA did its job.
Thomas Galligan with the Center for Science and the Public Interest said the upcoming FDA hearing could show the agencies taking a step in the right direction, but worried about potential loopholes in protecting the food supply from dangerous chemicals.
Companies are making safety decisions in secret, and FDA cannot ensure the safety of our food supply if it does not know what is in our food.
The FDA will hold a public meeting Wednesday. It's expected the agency will discuss development of a systemic process for conducting post-market assessment of food chemicals. I'm Greg Bishop.
News on the air, on the web, on your app, and on Alexa. I'm Tom Davis.
Cities 92.9.
Patchy fog and haze this morning, especially in the low-lying rural areas. It will turn sunny with a high of 74. Clear skies tonight, low 54. Sunshine on Thursday with a high of 76. Breezy on Friday with showers late in the day and a high 75.
This weather report is lifted by DH Pace Garage Doors, residential and commercial garage doors and entry doors since 1926. Schedule service at dhpacegaragedoors.com.
This is Kathy Michael, McLean County Clerk, with a reminder that the presidential election is November 5th. We believe this election might be the largest turnout ever. Don't miss out on your right to vote due to illness or bad weather on Election Day. You can vote by mail or vote early. Early voting begins September 26th. We are mandated this election to mail all registered voters a vote-by-mail application, not a ballot, but an application to request your ballot. If you want to vote from the privacy of your home, our vote-by-mail process in McLean County is safe and secure with never even a hint of voter fraud. And we have a new system where you can track your ballot to make sure it has arrived at our office. This entire vote-by-mail process is handled by Democratic and Republican election judges and open to the media and the public for inspection. Just Google McLean County Clerk for all your election information.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine.
Not fun.
Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all of that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations, Because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
The Fox Business Report is from INB's new Lockbox Lite, making it easier for businesses to get their banking done.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stock futures have been trading narrowly lower after records yesterday for the Dow and S&P. KB Home is anticipating making less from its new homes, especially on the West Coast. Its lower outlook has the stock under pressure, down 6%. Its profit improved from a year ago, but Wall Street was expecting stronger earnings. Software giant SAP shares are slumping following reports saying it's being investigated for possibly conspiring to overcharge U.S. government agencies, including the U.S. military. Bath & Body Works is being replaced in the S&P 500. Its shares have fallen more than 30% to date. It will be replaced by engineering and tech services company Amentum at the end of the month. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Posola, invested in you.
Success, it's discipline, it's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us that comes before all recognition. It's the best of each of us made better by the best in all of us. It's what Stifel's been doing for over 130 years. And it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management and investment banking firms in the industry. Stifel, it's where success meets success. Start your journey at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
At Tax and Accounting Plus, they're rock stars, but instead of microphones and guitars, they use spreadsheets. Focus on growing your business and servicing your customers, while Tax and Accounting Plus handles your payroll and bookkeeping. Find the experts at taxaccountingplus.com.
Since Busey Bank first opened our doors in 1868, we have built upon a tradition of close relationships and broad financial capabilities. Our experienced team provides the highest level of personalized service to ensure we accomplish your goals, simplifying your wealth management and business lending needs and ensuring a legacy for generations. Building business, growing wealth since 1868. Proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
Paid for by Christian Care Ministry.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you could get both, why not? Especially when it comes to healthcare, and that is MediShare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with MediShare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. That's because MediShare works. It has for more than 30 years. It's a community of Christians who have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth. They love the huge PPO network. So yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want to
experience the ultimate surge of energy and focus with Patriot Pump pre-workout, formulated to ignite your workout sessions. This powerhouse blend primes your body for peak performance. Elevate your training regimen and conquer your fitness goals with Patriot Pump pre-workout. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Patriot Pump, through a balanced, carefully crafted formula, shifts your focus and you'll find yourself in the gym more and improving God's creation, you. Our bodies aren't perfect, but striving to live righteously and healthy is something that the enemy will tell you is too hard. Through our ministry and formula, we plan to spread the gospel and motivate Americans to lead more righteous, healthy lives.
Hey. Yeah. Actually told you. I mean, all of them. I think mentioned Georgia's pro-life laws being the responsibility and being the reason why Thurman died. That's not true. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris mentioned the story on Twitter, stating Trump's abortion bans prevent doctors from providing basic medical care. That's I mean, she even plans to. I think she gave a speech in Georgia where she touted her support for legal abortion, and she's going to likely blame Georgia's. And she did. I think she already delivered the speech, and she talked about Amber Thurman, and she blamed Georgia's laws for Thurman's untimely death. It's so tragic. But like I said, there's no evidence that she bled out in a parking lot, and that these medical professionals didn't provide her care. This woman she had passed out from bleeding from these chemical abortion pills prior to going to the hospital. Okay. There have been, in contrary, the CNN host brings up Haitians and Haitian migrants, and she says, well, there's no evidence there either that the Haitian migrants are eating cats. Look, there have been multiple eyewitness testimonies. The only evidence in the Thurman case about her bleeding out in a parking lot, is her own best friend describing what exactly happened and how many, unfortunately, poor decisions Thurman made that ultimately led to her death. Also, North Carolina, the clinic should assume or should have some responsibility when it comes to providing her these abortion pills and letting her go on her merry way. So contrary to what this CNN host says, there is evidence, eyewitness testimonies from the Ohio Springfield residents that suggest that Haitian illegals are in fact eating pets there. There's been countless video surveillance. There's been 911 calls placed. So even if you don't want to believe that's true, there's still more evidence to suggest that that could be true. Okay. In comparison to the Thurman story, where people and elected officials are out there saying that Thurman died in a parking lot and bled out in a parking lot because they refused to provide her medical care at this Georgia hospital because of pro-life laws. You can't jump to that. So journalism is a protected profession, and it is to hold our government accountable. It is to not act as a PR crisis actor or as campaign or whatever. That's why here I will never sell out. Okay. I don't care what people want me to say about them, government officials. I don't care what elected officials want me to say about them. I will never sell out because this is a protected profession and we hold our government officials accountable. We don't act as PR crisis actors. And the media could care less about fact checking fairly. And this proves why the First Amendment is so crucial, because the left hates the First Amendment. They do. What is it? Hillary Clinton came out and she said that she wants to formally deprogram you if you vote for Donald Trump. She also wants to civilly and criminally go after people who spread misinformation, what she deems as misinformation. This is why the First Amendment is so crucial. And look, don't you ever think that the left would not exploit a tragedy for political gain. And that's exactly what they did here. So good on Vivek Ramaswamy, completely obliterating her.
This portion of the show is served up by the Long Branch again in Cooksville. Enjoy their juicy, crisp